Aloha kakahiaka. Kakahiaka is good morning. Aloha kakahiaka is good morning in Hawaiian. Want to welcome you all. This is the pre-show. So if you're watching this live, we're going to start in about 5 minutes, 9 o'clock exactly. And if you're watching this pre-recorded, you can just fast forward yourself about 5 minutes, unless you want to watch our little pre-game show. Let me bring in my good friends, Dylan Nonaka and Scott Startsman. Aloha kakahia, guys. How's it going? How's it going, Dylan? You got your mic muted.
It's good. We're getting set up. All right. Yeah. No. All good over here. I was just telling Peter prior to I'm indoors today because the painters are at my house, so I didn't want to get sprayed during the show. So, but beautiful. It's a beautiful day outside. Would have been a good day to be outside.
Yeah, and you also mentioned that your wife's got some orchids back there right behind you. As I'm looking at you on the right-hand side over there, it's over your left shoulder. That's cool.
Yep. Those are, it could be 20, 30 years old, those orchids. We actually rescued a bunch from my grandma's house recently that were still there and not being cared for. So we brought them back to life. She's got a little nursery going, and it's really cool when they bloom because orchids are beautiful. And if you got enough of them, you always got a couple of them in bloom, and you can bring them in the house, and it's a nice decoration.
Yeah, we actually had my wife had some orchids, and we got them as gifts, and so we don't do orchid farming or whatever. And then so we practically just threw it outside, like left it to die, and then boom, it just bloomed. So like, okay, that was kind of the okay. How's it going, Scott? What's up, buddy?
Good. I'm back from vacation this past week over on Dylan's Island, so I feel relaxed and ready to get back to work, back to reality. But good.
I saw that. I saw some beautiful photos that you had posted on your Facebook page over there. That was really awesome.
Yeah. Big Island's a nice place for me to go get away, relax, go visit family. I have family over there, so I like spending time over there. Did a couple of ocean swims at Hopuno, and then actually went over to Mauna Kea Beach Hotel to hang out on the beach. The hotel's closed down. It's like a 4 or 5 star hotel, nobody around, so it was nice to kick it on the beach with 30 people on this beautiful beach. It was amazing.
So we got Jim is telling us that he can't hear Scott either. So I hope, Jim, I hope you're hearing me. I heard you, Scott. We're gonna find out. I gotta see. We got a few minutes over here to start. Maybe I'm gonna try to figure that out. If not sure if anyone else can hear us or not. We got 10 people listening. It's gonna be a quiet show. If it could be a quiet show if it doesn't fly. But I got 2 minutes over here. See if I could figure this out real quick. I don't know if anyone else can hear us or not. Okay, Ralph. Okay, thank you, Ralph. Ralph says he can hear us. Good. We appreciate that, Ralph. Thanks for the confirmation. Here we got about 2 minutes left, so we have to do our traditional. It wouldn't be the show if we didn't do our Aloha shirt roundup there. Dylan, what are you wearing today?
I'm back to 6 That's the highest quantity of Aloha shirts I have are 6. So again, local designer from Hilo, so he's got to represent the Big Island. But this is one of my favorite ones. I like, for whatever reason, I like green in Aloha shirts. So I have probably 6 or 7 green ones, and this is one of them. It's a lehua print, so it's the flower of the ohia tree.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, everyone's gonna have their favorite color. Scott, what's on your shirt today? On your what are you wearing today?
Yeah, this is one of my favorites too. It's actually a flower. It's the naupaka, and there's a kind of a local Hawaiian folklore story behind it where 2 lovers. There's a mountainside or a mauka naupaka bush or shrub. And then there's an oceanside one, and they bloom a half flower. So if you look, it's half of a flower. They were separated. They were lovers. They couldn't be together. And the story in general was the one up the hill is half the flower. The one by the ocean is the other half of the flower, and they're separated. So,
yeah, that's totally very, very, very cool. Jim is saying he can't hear us. Jim, I suggest you check your computer because Ralph is saying that he can hear us. So I think we're good to go. I'm glad. Thanks for letting us know. We're gonna do the best that we can. And it is 9 o'clock, and it is that time to get the ball rolling. I want to welcome everybody again to another Aloha Friday Hawaii show. Great to be with you all. Thank you all for attending. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's just kind of jump right into it because it is that time. So we're going to start with our traditional coronavirus update on July 10th and talk about a bunch of related issues. So here's what's going on, folks. So the August 1st date is still officially the date that the state will be allowing visitors to skip quarantine if they get pre-tested before they come to Hawaii. And the pre-test rule here is you have to come within you have to get pre-tested within 72 hours of travel. So that's the current rule. It has not changed yet. That's what's going on. However, the 72, there is Dylan and I were talking off camera before the show started over here, and we're kind of betting that they're going to extend that date. In other words, we're betting that the August 1st date is not going to happen. And there's a bunch of reasons why we have that. There's a couple of stories over here. I'll share one with you real quick. I've got from some websites. It says it's becoming more questionable that that this date can be completed within the next 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks when Hawaii opens up August 1st. Hawaii contract partner in testing is CVS. So the idea would that you'd go to a CVS store to go get the test made, which appears to be having longer and longer delays in obtaining test results. Also, CVS indicates they only allow tests in the state in which you reside. Now that provides an interesting problem because, well, if a local resident goes to, say you go to Oregon and you're a Hawaii resident, how could you get tested at CVS in Oregon to come back to Hawaii? Apparently you can't. So there looks like there's some delays, there's some backlogs, there's some stories. I've got another one over here, a quick screenshot here I'll share with you guys. So a couple of top stories over here. She says shortage of COVID-19 tests nationally throws cold water on tourism reopening plan. So here's another story that's basically saying, summarizing it really quick. There's shortages. There's shortage of testing. There's issues. So there's a bunch of signals that are coming around right now that that this thing is not going to be. Not going to be on August 1st. So I would not bet that August 1st is going to be the day. That's kind of what I'm sort of seeing. Dylan and Scott, why don't you guys, feel free to comment on this, but I want to get some sense. There's some real estate stuff that's going on as well. One photo, one story I captured here. Let me show the screenshot there. Yeah. So if you look on the right-hand side here, this other story, Realtor survey finds alarming number of Oahu tenants unable to pay their rent in June. Now that's a rental issue, but that makes me want to ask you guys, give us the quick, what's going on with the market? What's changed? What insights do you have? What things have been happening? Dylan, let's start with you just because you're next to me on the row here.
Well, on the Big Island, it was actually June. The June data was somewhat of a bright spot given the last few months. And although we're still down in terms of the number of homes selling, we're down 23%. So last year in June, 209 homes sold. And then this year in June on the whole Big Island, 160 homes sold, which seems like a significant drop, about 50 homes, 49 homes less. But in May, there was only 132 homes sold. So we saw a bounce back from the steady decline starting in March of the number of closings that we had here on the Big Island. So we'll see if that recovery continues. Again, like we've been saying the last few shows, the median price has not fallen. So the median price was actually up 3% from a year ago, despite the reduction in the number of homes selling. The homes that are selling are still selling at higher price points. So we'll see a little bit of a bright spot in June, but time will tell if this thing continues to push on. It may be just the local buyers' confidence came back and they're continuing to buy. And I'm writing a kind of record number of sight unseen offers. So people that are familiar with areas, that are ready to buy, that want to move here, are willing to just purchase. And then when they can come, they're going to come and they'll have a home ready to go when they get here. So we're definitely seeing that also.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, Scott, what are you seeing? What's going on Oahu?
Yeah, the market actually is interesting. It's doing a little bit of what I thought it was going to be doing. So when we first started off, the first month of COVID data had number of new listings off by 44% compared to the same time last year, and I expected as stay-at-home started to get lifted and things started to open up the economy a little more, that would increase, and that's where we're at. The number of new listings is only off 27% now, so we have more sellers coming back on the willing to come on the market, getting closer to where we were the same time last year. The interesting data also is that the number of closed sales was only off 15% this past month, and for the last 7 days is only off 10%. So strong buyer demand still. Sellers are willing to come on the market, but the buyer demand actually has been increasing, and that's due to low interest rates. I'm running 6 escrows right now and writing another offer, and 5 of those are above asking and 1 is at list price. And same thing with Dylan. I talked to someone this morning about a listing I have coming up on the North Shore, and we were talking. They've got 3 escrows that were sight unseen buyers as well. They're not going to see the property prior to closing. And I actually was chatting with another person about some of the idea of what we've been talking about here being a safe place to buy. It's more removed, it's more isolated, and it's sped up some people's process for purchasing a property where they can get to, this kind of safer feeling. They can, stay in this place that's a little more relaxing and feel safer in it, in an environment, a warm environment.
That's a really interesting thing. So, we've talked about this we've talked about the COVID thing at every show, and the message, the consistent message I'm getting is that, there's so far we're not seeing a huge drop off in prices, which I think what everyone would be concerned about one way or another, right? If the drop doesn't seem to be coming, the cliff ain't there.
It's very neighborhood centric or area centric. So like when I pulled Waikiki data, new listings are down 40%, which is still on that same range. New escrows are off 50%, and sales are down 58%. So second home market Waikiki is very different than what's going on in the normal general local buying population market here.
Is there any sense of what's happening to the listing prices in Waikiki?
Yeah, they're not actually being, that's funny, we have some slides on that where I was just looking at that yesterday. We're not having a bunch of price reductions. They're staying the same. Waikiki actually got hit by 3 things during this past year. One was just a general kind of slowing down. We've been on an 8-year cycle, so it was kind of leveling off. Then that transient bill kicked in and hurt Waikiki, and now COVID. So you're looking at a couple of different things that are affecting that Waikiki market, which is why I feel like positioning now in that market for the long term over a 10-year cycle is a really good opportunity.
Interesting. We have a couple of related questions that came on this on the coronavirus related topic here, and I just want to read this off and see if you guys want to talk about some more. So this came from Dave and Linda, and they're saying, after Oahu opens back up, the state's going to open back up, do you think more homes will go on the market? We are planning to locate to the Hawaii Kai area. Also, do you project a spike in real estate market prices, or do you believe they will remain steady as they were prior to COVID-19? Is there anything you want to add to that we haven't already addressed, either Scott or Dylan? Scott, how about you first?
Yeah, no, I just talked about it. We are seeing more listings come on the market. So I do expect it. The safer things get, the more comfortable people are going to get to making that change in their life, to kind of getting back to a normalcy and making that move in whatever way it is. The key here is our price is going to spike once we add the offshore buyer pool. They will, as long as things are safe and as long as people are able to come here, because we still have an imbalance right now. Prices are going up a little bit. There's more buyers in the market than sellers, but that's just local buyers. Now, if you add in the offshore or the off-island buyer at that point, the number of sellers that are going to offset that is not going to be equal. And yeah, we should have restricted supply.
So Dylan, are you kind of, to Dave and Linda's question, do you see a spike kind of happening? Do you see things going steady? If you had to put your little crystal ball on, what would you kind of say what do you foresee happening, let's say over the next 3 to 6 months?
No, I think things will stay steady. I mean, as like Scott said, as listings come back on the market, as things normalize, I mean, it's not like there's going to be a spike in listings. I think they're just going to return back to pre-COVID, January, February numbers. But definitely there's still that buyer demand is there. In the last, since the last show, I wrote 2 offers that were over asking price and got beat on both of them. Didn't get the property. And I have a listing that got 4 offers, 2 of them being over asking price. So the buyer demand is there as long as properties are priced properly. You know, they're going to continue to sell, and it's just a matter of being ready to go when you're ready to go. And that's one thing that I'm seeing people are being more proactive about now, is instead of just kind of waiting to get pre-qualified or waiting to put their house on the market. I have several clients that are putting their house on the market in the mainland now, even if they do have to rent maybe in the short term. So they got that cash ready to go. So when they're ready to pull the trigger and come, they got that cash in hand to buy. So that buyer demand is going to be there. And I think that's going to drive. The other dynamic maybe though, is that I'm also talking to people who, you know, are thinking about maybe relocating back to the mainland, who don't want to anymore, because this has changed their perspective on, you know, whatever it was that was drawing them back to the mainland, maybe grandkids, better healthcare, lower cost of living. They're balancing that stuff out and maybe thinking, maybe I should bring the kids over here and just deal with the healthcare and, you know, deal with the cost of living because of all the, not just COVID issues, but all of the upheaval that we're seeing across the mainland right now.
Let's see. Let's move over to where there's rioting and outbreaks. Yeah,
Yeah.
Let's go there. Yeah,
it's not a hard sell. You know,
it's not a hard sell. You know what's remarkable about this? What really strikes me about this is that I've been in Hawaii since the mid '80s, so I've been through lots of ups and downs, lots of recessions. What's been amazingly remarkable to me is how steady and how sort of solid the real estate market is. I mean, I think the last time there was like any sort of a crash was when the Japanese vacated the market. This was back in the early '90s. And that wasn't even that bad, but Hawaii's market it's amazingly stable, amazing. And during the 08 recession, et cetera. Scott, you want to kind of throw a thing on that?
Yeah, and to talk about the Japanese market, because I've kind of studied that, and my father comes from tech and whatnot, but we didn't have the internet back then. And during the Japanese boom, 6 months of inventory was what was on the market, and we had 20% price appreciation. 6 months of inventory now is a balanced market for us. The internet completely changed the speed of sale. They remove barriers of entry for people to come here and be able to buy. So we're sitting right now at 2.5 months of inventory, which should equate to 5 to 10% price appreciation. That's amazing. And I attribute that to the internet, because before you had to get on a plane, come over here, find a realtor, go drive through neighborhoods. Now you're doing Google Street View. We got video, high-res photos. You're doing all your research. So when you get here, that process is sped up. That's completely changed our marketplace here and removed barriers of entry and added more demand to this place where we're always limited in supply.
It's remarkable. The internet and of course our show is changing everything about real estate. At least that's my story. I'm sticking with it. So I'll give a quick shout out to Linda. Yeah, Linda, we wish you could afford to move your family back to Hawaii too. Well, keep working at it. Don't give up, and I'm sure you can make that happen with the right. Good luck and some prayers. All right, let's move on. Get to some other stuff. Get to some other topics over here. So, I want to tell everybody we found our Maui girl. So we have Heidi Dollinger is going to be joining us at our next show. So in 2 weeks, Heidi's going to be with us, and you really want to get your. If you've been waiting for some Maui type of questions, and I should say Maui answers, you want to get your Maui questions into us. I spoke with Heidi last week and talked to her about going on the show. And I have a really brief intro from Heidi. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Illinois on a farm, so out in the country, and I lived in Chicago most recently. I discovered Maui when I came to Maui on vacation. And that was about 7-8 years ago. And as soon as I spent some time on Maui, I just had this feeling, I know this is going to be a place that I'm going to spend some more time. And a year later, I made it happen. I met my boyfriend out here. I relocated to Maui, and I've been loving it ever since. I mean, very different than the mainland, but I'm super grateful to be here.
So that's Heidi, and she's going to be joining us at our next show. And hopefully, we'd like to make her a regular part of the team. So you're going to get this is going to be really fun. We got the Oahu expert Scott, we got the Big Island expert Dylan, and we're going to have the upcoming Maui expert Heidi. And as you saw from her background, she came to Maui in 2014, and I think it's going to be. I'm looking forward to it. So that's going to be a good time. All right, let's get. We got some more. By the way. Folks, if you got questions, make sure our live audience, you guys are a big priority for us. So pop your questions in the comment field, and I'll do the best I can to kind of pull your questions up, and we'll try to answer them live. All right, let's get into this one. So Dylan, you picked this one here for you. So this is Alex from Oregon, and he's asking, why did you and your family choose the Big Island over others? Do property taxes differ from island to island? Dylan, why did you pick the Big Island?
I don't know if I can take credit for picking the Big Island, since my parents and ancestors chose it for us. But growing up here and then moving away and living in California, and I lived in Oahu for a couple of years, it definitely made me appreciate everything that we have here. And it really depends on the lifestyle that you want to live. And we're outdoorsy people. We like going to the beach, going out into nature, doing stuff, fishing, hiking, and the Big Island has just probably more of that than anywhere else, just because it is so big and it's so diverse in terms of the different climates and areas that you can go to. So you can spend the next weekend. We're going to spend 2 nights camping up in the mountain at like 6,000 feet at a cabin, totally off the grid. And the next weekend you can spend the weekend at the beach, or at home, planting the garden, or harvesting fresh fruit off your land. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do, and it's very small, still small town feel. So a lot of the people that I grew up with that are still around are the people that are running businesses now and doing things. And you constantly run into people that and it has that small town feel, unlike a big city where you don't necessarily have that. So if that's what you're looking for, the Big Island is definitely for you. And there's no place I would rather raise my kids. That's the biggest thing, I think, at the end of the day, is my kids are growing up in a very similar environment to minus the iPads and stuff that I grew up in. They go to the same judo sensei that I went to judo with, and they play on the same at the same parks and do a lot of the same things that I got to do as a kid. So that's just a cool experience. So that's the main reason I'm here. For property tax wise, they are different island to island, but they don't vary extremely. There's not an extreme difference. So it may be a point of a percentage different based on the real estate class, but there's not a huge swing. So normally, if it's a second home, it's like around 1% of your assessed value, and if you're an owner occupant, it's going to be about 0.5%, 0.6%, depending island to island. So it's going to be ballpark around there.
I think I like your story on the Big Island, because you were born there, you were born and raised there, but you did have a chance. You did go to the mainland. You did live in California. You did live on Oahu. So you could have chosen to stay in California or to come back. Hey, I got a quick question for you, Dylan. I think you mentioned this in an earlier show, but I can't recall. You mentioned that when you left to go to California, I can't recall if you said that you had no plans of coming back when you left, or what was your, because there's an interesting thing with, as a parent of 2, and my girls are in their 20s. One of them thought, I'm never coming back, and another one thought, I'm never going to leave. And the end result is the 2 completely flipped. The one who was never going to leave is gone and never coming back, and the one who said she's going to leave is still here. So what's your story about that?
I don't know if there was a singular tipping point, but I just came to appreciate what I had, and especially family. That was a big thing for me. Being gone, was you're raised here, very family centric. Every single holiday, there's 25 to 35 people at my house, and as people, my cousins and my brothers and in-laws have kids, that number grows, and that's just a normal occurrence. And to me, if we lived somewhere else and we had to spend holiday just with my immediate family, it'd be really weird, and we definitely miss that. So I think that was a big piece of it. Was, although I was in the military and you have your military family, it was very odd not having that family nucleus around all the time, having my grandparents around, having uncles and aunties, and the part of the Hawaii culture here, which a lot of my clients love that move here and become friends, is that when they come to my house and they visit, my kids call them auntie and uncle, right? It doesn't matter who you are, everybody's your auntie and your uncle here. And that's just a part of the culture that makes it really special, where it's not just your immediate family, but I have tons of people that I consider family that aren't my blood, but that's just the way we live here. And that's something that's, it's not like that everywhere. And when you've been to other places, I think, and you've grown up around that, you miss it.
Yeah, that's definitely a real powerful piece. Now, Scott, you live on Oahu, but you also have some family land, property on the Big Island, and you were just there over the holiday weekend. You live on Oahu, so you've chosen to live there. But if you were going to choose the Big Island, why would you move to the Big Island? What do you like about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a more relaxed pace. I started off on the Big Island in '99, and I was there for on and off for 5 years, back and forth between here and Oahu. And I chose Oahu because the economy is more diversified. It's not as dependent on tourism. I grew up in a city in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I wanted more of the city aspect. I was used to more the little bit of faster pace, work hard, play hard. The Big Island is one of my favorite places, though. I absolutely love it, and it's more about family. It's more about being able to take some time to make sure you enjoy life. I get caught up a little bit in the hustle and bustle over here at times. Part of that's a choice, but yeah, the Big Island has this element of just a relaxed ease. I mean, I drive down the highway now, still going on the lower highway over to Kauai to the family restaurant, and I'm giving shaka to people that I still know and still recognize me in my uncle's car and stuff, and go up the hill to Waimea, same sort of thing, people honking at me, and I'm just like, oh, hey,
That's really cool.
Yeah, the Big Island's a nice, family-oriented community and more relaxed.
Definitely, yeah, that outdoor, that relaxing. Excellent, great stuff, guys. Folks, if you got some questions, make sure you pop them in the comments. We'll do the best we can to address them. Let's move on to let's hit our Scott question over here. So what we got here, we have a couple questions that are all kind of related, and we have Linda from San Diego said, what's it like living on the east or west side of the island of Oahu? Are they significantly different from weather to lifestyle? I would love it if you would ID the neighborhood you're filming. So when we drive around, we're going to do that. The other question is from D from Atlanta, who says, hey, I would move tomorrow. However, what are some of the better neighborhoods? Is there any new construction real estate in Hawaii? I know my family will love the Hawaiian culture. What about the VOG? Is it bad for the lungs? And the quick answer is, yeah, VOG's not good especially if you have the respiratory issues. Finally, the other one from Hannah from Florida says, the different neighborhoods in Oahu are on sale, and on the quieter side is not downtown Honolulu. As I research, I've been thinking possibly Kapolei or North Shore, but would love your opinion on these areas and other areas that are safe, chill, and nice. So, Scott, what I'm kind of catching on this is, there's a bunch of questions that are related to, neighborhoods. What are the neighborhoods like on Oahu? So can you give us a really, really brief, let's hit east, west, North Shore, and what we call town or downtown area? I think let's start with that and kind of go further. Yeah,
so sometimes east-west side, we talk about windward versus leeward. And essentially what we're talking about from weather at that standpoint is our trades and the clouds and moisture and things come in from that east side, northeast side, bring cooler weather, cooler winds, but they come across and they hit the Ko'olau Mountains, and as the clouds rise to go over them, they will release that moisture. So therefore, the windward side or the east side of Oahu tends to be wetter, more rain, more lush, green, tropical landscaping, especially the closer you get to the mountains. So Kailua, for example, which is one of my favorite neighborhoods on the island, more of a beach community. I almost kind of think of it as like a boutique beach town because it's got a lot of boutique shops and restaurants within the town itself. A lot of people will ride their bikes to the beach from their house on that side. And it revolves around two of the best beaches in the world. I mean, Lanikai Beach has always been up at the top of the rankings for best beaches in the world. It's been discovered a little bit, but probably about 40,000 people that live in Kailua. Now, it sits out on a peninsula, so it stays a little drier, but Kaneohe is another excellent alternative, but the beaches are in Kailua. So you're driving to Kailua, or you're having to go up a little further up the Windward Coast for that. But it is closer to the mountains, so it tends to be a little wetter, a little more green in Kaneohe. North Shore is going to be country, relaxed vibe. Haleiwa is a fun little town, but you're out in the country. It's going to be much more quiet. You're based around surf and beaches and relaxed vibe. And then Kapolei, for example, or out towards that side, Kapolei is going to be our second city, or it is our second city. It's kind of started to develop out in the last 4 years, really develop out, that's where our new construction's going. And then if you're in town Honolulu or that South Shore, you're in the heavier urban development and have access to everything you want from a city standpoint.
I was distracted doing some Q&A on the comments. Did you speak about the west side of Oahu?
So west side, I mean, we're talking Kapolei on around. I mean, once you get onto that leeward, the true, what we call leeward coast, Waianae, Nanakuli, and Makaha. I love that area along the coast. I love that area in certain areas. The beaches are beautiful. You do have an economic standpoint that comes into play. There's much more, government assistance out that side. You also have a lot of ag land out there, and then your commute. So if you're looking to relax and kind of get out in the countryside, you can still do it out on that Makaha side. The one challenge for out there, which I love those beaches, and it's an affordable area to live, is the commute, getting in and out. And if traffic happens or an accident happens, then you're stuck.
And you mentioned this earlier, and Dylan, I'd like you to chime in on this. But the west depends on how far onto the leeward or west side you go. But there are some cultural adjustment issues. I would, unless you're, I would not. If you're from the mainland and you're moving to Hawaii for the first time, there's the Dylan smile. If you're trying to kind of say this, truthfully, I'm picking my words carefully because I want to be accurate. I don't want to mischaracterize the place. It's a great place. There's great people there. There's great families, and someone who is acclimated to local culture is not going to have a problem there for the most part. But if you've just moved over here and you're still trying to get kind of your sea legs, that's not the place I would, that's not the first place I would move to if I just came here from, North Carolina, Scott, or from Chicago. Dylan, how would you characterize what people need to kind of be prepared for, think about if they want to go to that leeward side, which is attractive from the mainland perspective? When you're doing Google searches, you see the lower prices, and so you think, let's move there. But what kind of advice would you give someone, Dylan, to say, if you're going to think about that west side, you want to think about that before you actually you plunk it down as the first place that you land?
Yeah, and let's be honest, as beautiful as Hawaii is, we have our challenges like everywhere else does, and there are places in every island that has communities that have socioeconomic challenges, and they're just places that, for a lot of reasons, are not as easy to live in because of the challenges in the community. So that's something you definitely want to consider and get some good advice on before you move to some place like that. Is and real estate prices are reflective of those challenges, and so among other things, that's what you gotta consider is what do the schools look like, and what do the parks look like, and what kind of things are going on in the community that you may want to consider. And you can look at the news. I mean, there's tons of news stories about homeless, encampments and different things going on, and those things happen. Every island has them, but that's something that you want to look at prior to making a decision if that's someplace where you want to live and invest money into.
And here's a kind of a good pitch for why you want to work with us, why you want to work with Scott, or why you want to work with Dylan, because you could do a bunch of Google searches and the real estate thing I forget, and Zillow searches, etc., and things might look good on paper, but you really kind of want to get sort of a feet on the ground view. Of course, obviously, you want to kind of see it when you get here as well. Great. Let's move on to our next one here. Let's see what we got over here. So I just want to give you all a quick pitch. If you're not in the Ohana, if you're not in the club, you want to get involved. This is livinginhawaii.com. Go to the website. That's what this video is sponsored by, or indirectly sponsored by. Hit that website. You'll have a pop-up that'll ask you to sign up on the newsletter. Get on that newsletter. We send out an email once a week with upcoming shows or previous shows or clips or news or all about living in Hawaii. So you definitely want to get onto that if you're not already part of that community. All right. Let's get into. I got a quick lightning round over here that I want to hit. A bunch of questions, and we're going to kind of go one by one, kind of as quick as we can. These are short ones that aren't like a full segment. So first one is from Olympia. This is from the Big Island, and she says, "I need reliable internet to work remotely. Are there places in Kona or Waikoloa that are better or worse for internet?" Dylan, what's your quick response on that one?
No, pretty much anywhere in that Kona, Waikoloa area, you're going to have the best high-speed internet that's available. And the big marker is whether or not you have electricity. There are areas way off the grid where you don't have electricity, where you're not going to have the lines to get high-speed internet. But if your house has municipal electricity, you're going to have great internet.
All right, great one. That's an easy one. All right, so Oahu. This is Chantel, and she asked, "What is the best town to live in Oahu, Hawaii? I'm thinking to move there." Thank you, Scott. What's your favorite place to live on Oahu?
Yeah, that's a tough one because it comes down to lifestyle and personal preference. I love Kailua on the east side. It's a very beach community, access to the water. I love North Shore because Haleiwa is a small little. It's tourist town at this point, but you have access to some of the best surfing spots in the world, and it's kind of a relaxed vibe. I even like Ewa Beach. I mean, I would say Ewa for someone who wants to retire and play a lot of golf. There's a ton of golf courses. And
Scott, you're not making it easy for me, man. You need to pick one. You got too many. I need you to pick one. I see you here. Your money. I put your money where your mouth is, and you're living in Waikiki, or not Waikiki. You're living near Diamond Head.
Well, I mean, if I'm going to pick a place, for me, this is it. I've been here for 21 years. I'm removed from Waikiki. I'm in a nice neighborhood with Kapiolani Park. It's a 300-acre park right here, right down the street from me. I could walk to the Waikiki Shell for concerts. I could walk into Waikiki or Uber it super quick. So if I want access to everything that's right there, it's less than a 5-minute drive. I walk down to Kaimana Beach and go for an open ocean swim. This is where I would live.
And I actually want to point this out to everybody, gang. You are not. That is not a virtual background that Scott's got on. This is not a virtual video playing in looping. This is real. This is real live. Coconut tree swaying back.
Those are real palm trees. Yeah, and the other thing is, it goes back to windward, leeward. This is my weather almost all year round. It very rarely is cloudy over Diamond Head because of where it's positioned on the island. So I get sun all the time.
It's a very, very dry part of the island. All right, let's hit another one of our lightning questions over here. So this is Margot from Michigan, and she asked on the Big Island, says, "Wondering if you help people find long-term rentals. We are thinking of renting for a 2-year or a year or two before we decide if we can move to the Big Island. There will not be right away." Dylan, how do you help out folks who wants to find some long-term rentals if they're looking at kind of as part of the buying process?
Well, we personally, our firm does not do any property management. So you would need to talk to a property manager, but I can recommend really good ones to you. And I can also help narrow down what area you want to live in. So we can, have a consultation, talk about what your needs are, what your desires are. And then again, like Oahu, even just on the west side, we're talking about 80-mile span of area. I mean, there's lots of different places where you can rent. So depending on that, I can kind of help you narrow down maybe where you want to pick your first spot to land. And then I always recommend also, it's a good idea, maybe do 6 months at a time. If you're planning on being here for 2 years to make a decision, maybe live in 4 different places 6 months at a time and get a real feel for it, because there's a lot of diversity in elevation, area, North Kona versus South Kona, or even the rest of the island. Maybe try out Hilo or Waimea or some of the other spots around the island.
That's a great recommendation. Live, and if you're going to spend 2 years, spend 6 months at a given place. I totally agree with that. 6 months will give you a good vibe of sort of any place. All right. Next one, Linda from San Diego says, for Oahu, how difficult or expensive is it to get flood and hurricane insurance? In California, companies have been canceling homeowners policies because of recent fires. Scott, do you have any sense of what's going on with hurricane and flood insurance on Oahu?
Well, if you get a loan, the lender is going to require hurricane insurance. So you can get it here, and you can actually get it in a couple of different kind of a la carte packages from where you have housing replacement. You know, if something happens, the insurance company will pay for you to have housing somewhere. They'll put you up somewhere, or you can go bare bones with some things. But no, it's required by the lender. We haven't had issues. We had some issues a couple of years ago. I want to say it was around the Katrina timeframe where we had some tightening up of the hurricane insurance, and they were making people retrofit older single wall construction homes with hurricane clips in order to be able to get that insurance. Flood insurance, same thing. I mean, that's through FEMA. And then if you, but the structure's only insured for up to 250,000 max and 100,000 for personal property. So then if you wanted a supplementary policy, you got to go to Lloyd's of London, but very few people do that.
So I'm hearing from you, the headline is there should be no problem in getting flood or hurricane insurance.
Correct.
Okay, great.
And it's not super expensive. It shouldn't be. Let me clarify that. Hurricane insurance is part of your homeowner's policy. You know, on average, is going to run you $1,500 to $2,000 a year, unless you got like a multi-million-dollar home. Flood insurance, on the other hand, you do want to get a specific quote for if you're looking at a house that is along the coastline or in some type of floodplain, because that can be significantly more expensive, $5,000 to $10,000 a year, depending on what zone you're in. So definitely something you want to explore, and you want in your home search, you want to make sure the first thing I look at when I am sending somebody a list of homes to look at is the lava zone and the flood zone, to see if there's any additional costs that they're going to have to incur if they do purchase that home.
Now, there's something that you don't get to worry. You don't have to worry about on the mainland as being in a lava zone. Lava zone. That's something new.
Yeah, and actually that's a common misconception. Also, is that people ask, can you get lava insurance? And there's really no such thing as lava insurance. There's they call it all other perils insurance that you can get, which does cover basically all other perils, a meteor falling from space and smashing your home. So that's something that is an additional cost. It's not a huge additional cost, but when you hear the horror stories about people who lost their homes to lava, a lot of times they were offered that it's an optional service and they declined it. And from the insurance agents that I've spoken to here that I know and trust, they said pretty much no questions asked. If you had the right coverages, you were paid out immediately if you lost your home. It was folks that kind of went cheap on their insurance and didn't have the right coverages where they had issues. So
Excellent.
It's something that people don't do, but just word of advice, look closely at your insurance policy wherever you are, not just here or in America. Make sure you really understand, sit down with your insurance agent and understand what your insurance covers, because it can be very tricky and it can be very complicated. And you just want to make sure that you're not skimping on $100 or $200 a year and potentially losing out on, your life savings in your home if something happens and you weren't covered for it.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add in my 2 cents in that. You want to be doing that. You want to go through that process before something strikes, before a storm. You want to do before, yes, not afterwards when you're kind of trying to figure out what you're qualifying for. Okay, we got a question that just came in from Ralph, and Ralph is a regular viewer, and he says, interesting in renting single-family home, view and pool on each island for 3 to 4 months. That's kind of like what you're talking about, Dylan, before buying our retirement home. Our move to Hawaii has been delayed by COVID, so we're a bit anxious about how those rental markets are doing during this upheaval. Is it reasonable to plan to rent for 3+ months on Oahu, then Maui, then Hawaii? Well, we're going to have that Heidi answer that one for Maui, but Scott, why don't you and Dylan kind of take that one real quick? What's the rental market like? Any sense of what the rental market is looking like on Oahu right now?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely opportunities. In fact, I think it's a better opportunity now to be able to rent on a month or 3, 4, 5 months basis. And I just helped two people more or less do that, because you got a bunch of Airbnbs that aren't available. That on the house side, it's a little different, but it's minimum 30-day rental. So there are availabilities, and I have people that handle those rentals that I could put people in touch with and help navigate that. But we're sitting in a time frame where the vacation rental pool is kind of sitting empty, so now it's a good time. People want income, so if you're coming over here shortly to look to buy, it's easier to find and negotiate a 30, 60, 90-day kind of rental.
That's a really good point. The short term, if your short term rental is 30, 60, 90 days, that's definitely a winner. Dylan, what's any sense of what that market's looking like on the Big Island?
Yeah, it sucks. It's totally it's a terrible time to be an owner of a short-term vacation rental right now.
So wait. So it sucks from a owner's point, a landlord's point of view, but it's then therefore phenomenal for a renter's point of view.
Well, it kind of sucks for everybody, because right now the according to the mayor's guidance, short-term vacation rentals are shut off. So and this is just a crazy thing I think we talked about on a previous show, where if you have our county planning department, which issues the permits to allow you to short-term vacation rent your property, has interpreted these emergency declarations to mean that if you have a short-term rental that is properly permitted, but you decide to rent it to somebody for 3 months, you are forfeiting your short-term vacation rental permit because you're entering into a long-term rental situation. And so they're basically holding a gun to these short-term rental owners' heads and not letting them long-term rent either. And so that's somewhat of an issue here going forward. Is if you're looking at in a few months down the road, you may have an advantage because there's going to be a lot of vacancy and you're going to be able to negotiate a good rate, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity to rent as long as things open up and you're allowed to do that, because a lot of these short-term vacation rental owners are not being allowed to operate at all under any circumstance right now, which is a huge problem.
Wow. Okay. So that's a mess. That's a mess.
It's a mess.
Definitely want to mess. So you want to reach. So Ralph, reach out to us. There's links on the forms, links in the description. Click on the link. There's a form, kind of pop your stuff in there, or just reply. I send out that newsletter, goes out every week, and it comes from my email address. So just reply, and we'll be happy to kind of help. All right, guys, let's move on. I got a bunch of HOA questions. So Teresa from Dallas, Texas here has given us some questions, and we got a bunch of HOA kind of questions. So I got one for you, Dylan, and one for you, Scott. So let's start this up here. Do all neighborhoods have HOA? HOA stands for, what's HOA stand for? Homeowners Association? Homeowners
Correct.
Association, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Homeowners associations. Do all neighborhoods have HOA? Can you paint your home? Here's what Teresa says. Do all residential neighborhoods have HOA? And what kind of things do they normally ask of you? Can you paint your home a different color? Or are you bound by only the colors of their selection? Do they mow their lawn for you? Do they plant their flowers for you? What in most cases does HOA have control over? I've got my Big Island background here, so that's a trigger for you, Dylan. What's your answer on the HOA piece?
This is an impossible question to answer quickly, because there's a huge spectrum of HOAs. You have the really intense, crazy ones who control everything, where the expenses are high and they do everything for you. And then you have the ones all the way on the other end of the spectrum that are basically just exist on paper, collect a couple $100 a month, a year in dues, and maintain the road. They don't care what you do with your house or your lawn or anything like that. So depending on what level of HOA you would like, that's something that we can help with in terms of directing you to the areas that fit kind of what your desires are for an HOA. Not every area has an HOA. A lot of places, older neighborhoods, they may have had one for the first 10 or 20 years and then they expired. And if the homeowners don't renew them, then they just go away. And so there's a huge spectrum in terms of HOA, and you really want to be aware of that before you narrow in on an area to buy.
So Scott, here's your side, and I want to hear your kind of take on that, on those same issues of HOAs. We got a couple of things that are some more specific questions, but I do want to hear about your take on the HOA thing as well. And this is Ken from Nashville, and he says, I check Zillow every day. It appears that condos, townhomes depreciated a lot from 2014 to the 2017 timeframe. If that is correct, I'm wondering why. It also appears that many are coming onto the market right now at the 300K level, 2 bedrooms, 700 square feet range, which I could buy. The listings say HOA is 0. Why do they not show monthly maintenance fees? They must be exorbitant. But if I'm paying cash, maybe it's doable. Your comment. So Scott, give me a sense of, hit the HOA question first that Teresa had given us. What's the range of, what's the HOA thing like? And then what do you say to Ken's questions here about depreciation, prices? Why don't they show HOA fees? I look myself on Zillow, and I usually don't see the HOA fees on those listings. So shed some light here, Scott.
Yeah. So let me start on the HOA portion. All the newer developments out here have a HOA in place. They have a maintenance fee, and the older subdivisions on Oahu don't have them. So you're not going to have a maintenance fee. You're going to be city and county building restrictions and ordinances, so you don't have to worry about that, such as Kailua, In Town, Pololo, St. Louis Heights, etc. The HOAs out on the newer developments, Eva, Kapolei, et cetera, master plan communities, they will have them, and they can be really strict. I mean, Ocean Point and has specific trees and plants and vegetation. They have a whole list of what you're allowed to have. Anything that's not on that list, you can't have. They've gotten pretty strict out there lately. I've had a couple of fine incidences with clients that I'm trying to navigate them through because I've created associations and condominiums and stuff. I know that process and how to navigate it. But yes, they have specific paint colors that you're allowed to do. It's got to be approved by the association. And then you have others that are much looser where it's, and in Ocean Point, for example, they'll take care of the front yard portion because they want this consistent look on that front side. Others are not as restrictive, and they're much looser. Or you get Hawaii Low Ridge on this east side where it's a gated community, and you actually have a gated community within the gated community. So you're paying for that aspect as well. To touch on the Zillow question, this is exactly why I don't recommend people going to Zillows. It's not very accurate. First of all, what they're trying to do, why they're not showing you maintenance fees, is because they want you to call an agent. They're charging agents advertising fees to get, for advertising for people to call them, and that's exactly what they're designed to do. They're going to give you certain information and not. But to go back,
I never thought about the make you call them angle. I always wondered about that. But
that's what it is. Because the reality is depending on the website, we all do a data feed from the MLS, right? That's how we show our properties. It's all data, and it's just that every site is different on how they display that data to the consumer. And we show everything. You can even get solds if you want on our side. But the depreciation portion, actually, when I looked yesterday, we're up 42% on the median condo price since 2011, and we haven't had a down year since 2011. So I don't know where that comes from. 700 square feet for a $300,000 condo is going to be leasehold. And does it matter if you're cash or not cash? Yeah, absolutely. The shorter the lease gets, and Peter, you got 3 really good videos on leasehold on your website that people should check out. But real quick on that financing side, you need 6 more years left on the lease than the length of 6 more years left on the lease than the length of the loan that you're going to be getting. So you want 30-year financing on that leasehold property, you need 36 years left on the lease. So, and same thing with 15-year financing, you get 21 years. And the problem with that is obviously you get to a point where you can't get financing on leasehold properties. Thus, that's why the price starts to diminish.
Excellent, man. Thanks. I appreciate that. Hey, let's move on to another. I'm going to move on to one of our new segments that we've been playing around with over here, and we pulled this. We started this at our last show, and we're going to continue over here. And this is our Diamonds and Deals part. So what I've done is I've asked Scott and Dylan to pull out a property that they, what I'm going to call an aspirational property, sort of an example property, something that you think is like really cool, really awesome, a diamond or a deal. If there's something, and sometimes you could have both. You have a diamond and a deal. But I've asked the guys to bring us their diamonds and deals, and we're going to move into that now. Let's talk about. So Dylan, this is yours. I'm gonna give the mic over to you. What is this? What are we looking at over here, Dylan?
This is a almost beachfront property right on Ali'i Drive, right next to Kahalu, which is one of the most popular snorkeling beaches and surf spots on the Big Island. It's a protected bay. It has like a reef out front, so it creates this bay with very little waves, and the fish are so tame they'll just like come right up to you. And so super popular area. This house is right across. It's across the street from the water. It's actually the one that on that drone shot behind that green patch. So you don't have a house right in front of you, but beautifully upgraded old house. It actually is properly zoned for vacation rentals. So you could get the vacation rental permit and vacation rent it, but it's under 900,000. And in this area, it's very rare to find stuff under $1 million. And so this one I think has been subject to the current market that we're in, but something like this, last year this time probably would have sold for 1.1 or something like that, but the price continues to drop, and I've been watching it and I'm just astonished it hasn't sold yet. I've been to it, I've done a 360 video of it, but beautiful spot. If you got any questions about it, let me know. But almost beachfront.
If you got that send me the link to that 360 video, and I'll link to it in the description when I repost the show. Definitely want to hear. So this looks kind of interesting to me. This is the views are stunning, and it's this. I don't know if you can see this on the screen or not, but it's the property there's a blue outline around. I don't know if you can see the blue outline, folks, but there's a blue. Let me zoom this in here. Maybe you might see a better view there. There's a blue outline. It's the property that's across the street. It's like I said, it's almost beachfront. And it's got that sort of green patch in front of it. Do you know if that the first thing that comes to my mind, Dylan, is that green patch? Is that another property? Like, can someone build a house there, do you think, someday, or is that just sort of a sort of shared between the two properties between them, or something like that? Do you know?
No, it's a vacant lot, but given the current restrictions and setback restrictions and environmental restrictions, it would be nearly impossible to build on that today. Most of these homes were built 30, 40 years ago, so it's very, very hard to build beachfront today.
You couldn't build that house on that beach if you wanted to. Yeah, that's interesting. There was another part that you said that was interesting too, is like this home here is sort of a victim of the short-term rental thing that you talked about earlier. So they can't rent it out. They're probably stuck. Maybe they bought it to Airbnb it, and now they can't. And so if you wanted almost beachfront in a killer van, that's so Dylan, do you call it, is that your diamond and deal? Because it sure looks like a diamond. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's definitely a deal. But it's beautiful inside also. It's totally upgraded, very modern. I mean, you can see those huge
photos
windows
are great.
those windows looking right out to the water. I mean, doesn't get better than that if you want island lifestyle.
Boy, you're not kidding. That is.
And I can tell you, the home right across the street on the ocean side, we sold that last year, and that thing was doing like over 150,000 a year in vacation rental income. So to give you an idea of what in a normal market, what kind of income these properties can generate on the vacation rental market.
Wow. So, hey, Ralph, this is the place to get, Ralph, if you're looking at something cool. All right. This is great. Thanks, Dylan. And this is a great property to highlight. Okay, Scott, yours is up next. Great photography here. Fill us in. What is this?
Yeah, this is Makaha Beach Cabanas. This is one of my favorite spots. I actually feel that this building is probably one of the best beachfront values on all of Oahu. For $325,000, you can get a 1-bedroom, fee simple, that's renovated. This one's been fully renovated on the inside. Your lanai is off the back. I've spent a ton of time here vacationing. How I kind of see this, and I got a couple of clients that do this. They come over from California. They either rent it out on a 30-day basis or they leave it vacant. They come here, and you don't leave the property effectively. It's a gated complex, so your parking is gated to get into the the building is gated, so it's secure. But you walk right out the back of the building onto a sandy beach. I've surfed big surf right out front. I've body surfed there. There's some snorkeling. But we would sit on the lanai and have champagne and cocktails. I used to bartend, so I'd make us Mai Tais every once in a while, and we'd just dig our feet in the sand or sit up on the lanai and watch sunsets every night, because that Makaha side gets some of the most amazing sunsets. So for $325,000 fee simple, where can you be beachfront, sandy beachfront like that? It's hard to find. That's why it's an opportunity that people don't think about. And that Makaha area has a reputation, but it's not true. I've never had any issues up that side, and I love the local community out there.
Again, this is back to the local question that we talked about earlier. If there's issues, but if you kind of fit along with local values and local style, long story short, and we talked about this in a variety of ways, but if you embrace, and Dylan, I think you put it best a long time ago. You said, if you embrace us, we'll embrace you. If you reject us, we'll reject you. And I think that's the easy way to kind of say it. Easier said than done, because it's not, you think, oh yeah, I'll just embrace it, but it depends. There's a lot of issues, but that's a side story. So Scott, my first of my question come on this is that picture of the table there with the two chairs, is that a picture from the lanai of this unit that is for sale?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's not like a mocked up picture of some other unit. That's this unit, right?
Yeah, and the one on the right is the same thing. It's just looking angled to the right down the beach. And I used to dive for shells in the shore break on that right hand side near that peninsula quite a bit. I just kind of wade in the water, just relax.
Wow.
So if you're living in Kapolei or you're living out that side, man, this is a phenomenal place to live. Or if you want to come, because you get a lot of Canadians that come here for 2-3 months at a time, so you can rent out those blocks to them, to the snowbirds, and you get a number of Canadians that stay there over the winter time. And it's not a crowded beach, not a lot of people go to it, so it's a gem.
Hey, what's something like that in Kailua or Waikiki costs, Scott?
Oh, I mean, you can't even. You're gonna have to go Gold Coast, then you're million plus. Yeah, because there's no ocean front in Waikiki.
True.
So there's the location thing, right? So if you wanted to get this in the Waikiki area, and in other words, like Scott, where you live, let me show your background there. So if you wanted Scott's background, if you wanted Scott's background and be on the beach, it's a million plus, probably more than I would think. Yeah, easy.
Easy.
Since we're talking about HOAs, first question is, well, let me hit Scott first. So Scott, what's the HOA fee for this unit? Just because we're talking about HOA, so let's just bring it up while we're here. What's the HOA fee for that unit? Do you know?
It's about $475 a month, and it includes the cable, internet, and cable.
It's not
water,
that's
sewer.
Actually not that. That's not that bad actually. $475. Nope. Dylan, is there an HOA for your property here for your diamond deal?
Nope, there is not.
Okay, so this is one of these county zoning kind of things that we're talking. There is no HOA in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Got it. Great. All right. Excellent, guys. Let's see here. I think we're kind of coming up to the end of. Let me see if I got anything else over here real quick. I'm gonna go through my slides here. Yeah. No, I think that's going to be it, folks. So look, I want to stress everybody that our next show. It's Maui no Ka'oi. That's a classic saying in Hawaiian. It means Maui is the best. And that's what I don't know if they're still saying that, but that's what they used to kind of say back in the 80s. Maui no Ka'oi. And so we got a couple of questions over here. We're going to have Heidi take those. Condo versus home. Should I buy a condo? What do you think? What's going on? Short-term rentals. All kinds of good questions about Maui. If you've got Maui questions, this is the time to send us your Maui questions. We're going to have our Maui expert here. And Teresa says, thanks guys very much. That was most helpful. Thanks, Teresa. Glad we're able to help you folks out. Let's kind of wind this up over here. Dylan, you have any closing thoughts or closing ideas you wanted to wrap this up with for everybody?
No, I don't think so. Great show. Thanks for everybody for the questions, and keep them coming, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Scott, you want to give your hellos and goodbyes, everybody?
Yeah, thanks for checking in, and we love sharing the info, so appreciate it.
Yeah, George, another regular audience. Thanks, George. We're happy to help, and I think it's kind of fun. We try to make this as fun. Real estate on one hand is a really dry kind of a thing, but I think right, it's like stats, statistics, and listings. It's like, but there's some beautiful part, but there's some great stuff. So I'm really happy. All right, folks. See you all. We're gonna be back. Let me see. Where's my little slide over here? We're gonna be back. Yeah, we'd like to see you folks be back in 2 weeks. So whatever 2 weeks from 2 weeks. Was the 20. Whatever that is. So today is July 10th, 2 weeks. Well, that is that. We'll see you then. Get on the newsletter. That's the best way to get notified. Go to livinginhawaii.com. The newsletter will pop up. Get on that, and we'll get your notification, and we'll see you here in a couple of weeks. All right, folks. It's Peter Kay. I want to bid you all aloha.